Alaric was a skilled hunter who lived at the edge of a vast, golden savanna bordered by whispering forests. He knew the tracks of every animal, the scent of the dry wind, and the secrets of the watering holes. His village respected him because he only took what was needed to feed his people and never hunted for sport. Yet, despite his deep knowledge of the wilderness still held secrets that would test his heart. One quiet morning, Alaric tracked a set of unusual paw prints deep into a dense, misty part of the forest. The air grew thick and silent, and even the birds stopped their songs as he pushed through the heavy brush. He expected to find a majestic beast, but he did not expect the stillness that gripped the trees around him. He raised his bow, sensing that something powerful and unseen was watching his every move from the shadows. Suddenly, a magnificent leopard stepped out from behind a massive baobab tree, its coat shimmering like gold mixed with midnight charcoal. Alaric drew his arrow back, aiming straight for the beast's chest, preparing to strike before the predator could spring forward. To his absolute astonishment, the leopard did not growl or bare its sharp teeth. Instead, it sat down calmly. The great cat looked directly into his eyes, showing no fear. The leopard opened its mouth and spoke in a deep, resonant human voice that sounded like smooth stones rolling in a river. It told Alaric that its name was Mawu, a spirit guardian bound to protect the ancient balance of the forest. Mawu explained that a great darkness was creeping into the land because men had forgotten to respect the wild. Alaric listened intently, his hunter's instinct giving way to profound wonder. Mawu offered Alaric a sacred choice to either hunt him for glory or join him on a quest to restore the balance. The leopard warned that choosing the quest would mean facing terrifying trials that no ordinary human had ever survived. Alaric thought of his village, his ancestors, and his duty to protect the land that fed his people. Without hesitation, he unstrung his bow and nodded, accepting the leopard's challenge. The first trial brought Alaric and Mawu to the Valley of Whispering Stones, a desolate place where the rocks echoed past regrets. As Alaric walked, the stones began to cry out with the voices of his past mistakes and moments of deep doubt. The psychological weight grew, so heavy that he dropped to his knees, unable to take another step forward. Mawu walked beside him, his steady breathing acting as a shield against the noise. Mawu told Alaric to focus only on the sound of the wind and the true purpose in his heart rather than the ghosts. Alaric closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and let the false voices wash away until there was only silence. He stood up on firm feet, his spirit cleared of the heavy burdens that had held him down. Together, the man and the talking leopard successfully crossed the dangerous valley into the next realm. Their second trial led them to the river of fire, a rushing torrent of liquid embers that blocked the path to the mountains. There was no bridge, and the heat was so intense that it singed the edges of Alaric's leather clothes from a distance. Alaric looked at the fiery currents and realized that no human could swim across without being turned to ash. Mawu stepped forward, his spots beginning to glow with an icy blue light. The talking leopard told Alaric to leap onto his back and hold on tightly without looking down at the flames below. Alaric trusted his guide completely, mounting the great beast and locking his arms around the thick, powerful neck of the leopard. Mawu took a mighty running start and leaped high into the air, defying the heat as his blue aura parted the flames. They soared across the burning river in a single, breathless bound. They landed safely on the cool, rocky northern shore, but the magical effort left Mawu weakened and breathing heavily on the ground. Alaric immediately set to work, using his knowledge of forest herbs to find cooling plants growing in the mountain crevices. He crushed the leaves and applied them gently to the leopard's paws, returning the kindness the beast had shown him. Mawu looked at him with deep, silent gratitude. As the moon reached its peak, a sudden roar echoed from the mountain peak, shaking the loose stones around their campsite. The source of the darkness revealed itself as a corrupted, giant shadow hyena that sought to consume the land's remaining life. The beast was 3 times the size of a normal predator, its red eyes burning with malice and pure hunger. Alaric stood up, picking up his bow, ready for the final confrontation. The shadow hyena lunged down the mountain, its jaws snapping with enough force to crush boulders into tiny pieces of dust. Mawu, still recovering his full strength, sprang forward to intercept the beast, his golden claws clashing against the dark armor. Alaric knew he could not pierce the monster's hide with ordinary arrows. He needed a strike guided by pure intent. He closed his eyes, asking the spirits of the forest for aid. Alaric released the glowing arrow, and it flew true through the chaos, striking the shadow hyena precisely in its glowing red chest. The monster shrieked as the light pierced its core, fracturing the darkness into 1,000 harmless pieces of night wind. The land suddenly grew still, and the oppressive weight that had hung over the forest vanished completely. Mawu stood victorious, his golden coat shining brighter than ever before. With the darkness destroyed, the spirits of the forest began to sing, and green grass sprouted rapidly from the dry earth. Mawu turned to Alaric and told him that the bond between humans and nature had been successfully restored through his bravery. The talking leopard explained that his time in the physical world was ending, but he would always watch over the hunter. Alaric bowed low to his companion, feeling a deep sadness. Alaric returned to his village as a changed man, carrying the wisdom of the talking leopard in his every action. He taught his people how to hunt with absolute respect, ensuring they balanced what they took with what they protected. He lived a long, honored life, and the villagers often noticed a golden leopard tracking him peacefully from the treeline. The hunter and the spirit walked together, forever keeping the ancient balance. The rhythm of Alaric's life became a song of harmony that resonated through the huts and fields of his community. He spent his afternoons teaching the young ones how to read the language of the tracks without malice or greed. He showed them that every animal possessed a story and a specific purpose within the grand design of the world. The children listened with wide eyes, sensing the deep magic behind his simple words. One season, a strange silence fell over the eastern borders of their territory, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Alaric felt a familiar tug in his spirit, a subtle whisper in the wind that reminded him of Mawu's old warnings. He knew that peace was a garden that required constant care, not a stone that remained unchanged forever. He packed his simple pouch and prepared to inspect the boundary lines alone. As Alaric walked the eastern path, he noticed the acacia trees were shedding their leaves out of their natural cycle. The earth felt cold beneath his bare feet, devoid of the warm vibration that usually pulsed through the savanna soil. He stopped by a dried-up watering hole and saw no tracks of gazelle or zebra, only a heavy stillness. He knelt down, pressing his palm flat against the cracked mud to listen deeply. A soft, familiar rustle sounded from the dead brush, and a single golden paw stepped into his field of view. Alaric looked up to see a young leopard cub, its eyes carrying the exact same intelligent spark as Mawu. The cub did not speak with words, but its mind touched Alaric's, sharing an image of a blocked mountain spring. Alaric smiled, realizing that Mawu's lineage was still guiding him through the changing world. Alaric followed the young cub as it nimbly climbed the steep, rocky slopes leading toward the high mountain peaks. The path was treacherous, filled with loose gravel that threatened to slide into the deep valleys below with every step. He used his hunter's agility to mimic the cub's precise movements, trusting the small guide completely as they ascended. The air grew thinner and colder the higher they climbed into the clouds. At the summit, Alaric found the ancient spring blocked by an unnatural mound of black, jagged boulders that smelled of sulfur. The blockage was stopping the life-giving water from flowing down to feed the eastern plains and the thirsty trees. He approached the mound, but as he touched the stone, a sharp jolt of negative energy pulsed through his arms. He realized this was a remnant of the old darkness he had fought before. Alaric knew that brute strength alone would not move the stones. He needed to use the balance he had learned from Mawu. He began to sing an ancient song of thanksgiving to the water spirits, his voice steady and full of reverence. As the melody echoed off the mountain walls, the golden cub began to circle the rocks, leaving a trail of light. The dark energy around the boulders began to crack and fade away. With a mighty crash, the black boulders shattered into ordinary gray pebbles, and the clear mountain water rushed forth with power. The stream cascaded down the mountainside, sparkling like diamonds in the bright afternoon sun, eager to heal the parched land below. Alaric washed his face in the cool, refreshing current, feeling his own strength renewed by the success of their simple mission. As they walked back down the mountain, Alaric noticed the eastern plains were already responding to the return of the water. Small green shoots were breaking through the soil, and the distant calls of birds began to fill the once silent air. The young cub trotted beside him, its task complete, showing that the partnership between man and beast was secure. Alaric felt a deep sense of pride in this new generation of guardians. When they reached the forest edge, the cub stopped and looked back at Alaric with an expression of mature understanding. With a soft purr, it turned and melted into the thick undergrowth, returning to the wild spaces where it belonged. Alaric did not follow, knowing that some bonds are kept strongest through mutual freedom and respect. He turned his steps back toward his village, his heart light and at peace. Back in the village, Alaric added this new chapter to the stories he shared around the communal evening fire. He told the villagers that the spirits of the wild would always provide a guide if humans walked with clean intentions. The elders nodded in approval, knowing that the hunter's wisdom was the true anchor keeping their community safe. The firelight flickered against his face, highlighting his deep lines of experience. Years passed like the steady turning of the seasons, and Alaric's hair began to silver like the frost on early morning grass. His steps became slower, but his vision remained as sharp as the hawk that circled the high savanna winds. He no longer carried a heavy bow, choosing instead a simple wooden walking staff carved with leopard spots. He had fully transitioned from the village hunter to the village seer. One night, a heavy rainstorm rolled across the land, bringing a deep, cleansing moisture that the village had long anticipated. Alaric sat by a small window, watching the lightning illuminate the great Baobab tree in the distance with sudden flashes. He felt a profound sense of completeness, as if his own life's journey was perfectly aligned with the natural cycles. He lay down on his mat, closing his eyes to the sound of thunder. In his dream, Alaric found himself standing once again in the bright, timeless savanna of his youth, devoid of any pain or age. Walking toward him from a horizon of pure golden light was Mawu, looking as magnificent as the first day they met. The talking leopard greeted him not as a master, but as an equal brother who had finished his earthly labor. Alaric laughed, stepping forward to meet his old friend. Mawu told Alaric that his earthly work was done, and that his spirit had earned the right to run among the stars forever. Alaric looked back one last time at the world he had protected, seeing his village thriving in peace and harmony. He felt no regret, only a deep satisfaction that he had left the land better than he found it. He turned his back on the physical world, ready for the eternal hunt. The next morning, the villagers found Alaric's physical body resting peacefully on his mat with a gentle smile on his lips. There was no grief in the village, only a deep celebration of a life lived with absolute purpose and honor. They buried him at the foot of the great Baobab tree, where he had first encountered the magical spirit. They knew his story would live on as long as the wind blew. As the funeral ceremony ended, a low, powerful roar echoed from the deep forest, causing everyone to pause in silent wonder. It was not a roar of anger, but a declaration of presence and protection that comforted every heart in attendance. The villagers looked toward the tree-line and saw a large golden leopard standing proud before melting away. They knew Alaric had joined the guardians of the land. Generations came and went, but the story of Alaric and the talking leopard remained the cornerstone of the village culture. Every new hunter was brought to the Baobab tree before their first hunt to swear an oath of balance. They promised to respect the wild spaces and never take more than the earth could naturally replenish. The spirit of the alliance remained alive and unbroken through the centuries. The village grew into a prosperous sanctuary where humans and animals lived without the constant fear of mutual destruction. The fields remained fertile, the water stayed pure, and the forest stayed thick and vibrant under the watchful eyes of the ancestors. Alaric's descendants carried his name with pride, always remembering the hunter who chose a quest over a simple trophy. Even when modern times began to change the face of the outer world, this specific valley remained a pocket of ancient magic. Travelers from distant lands came to hear the tales of the talking leopard and the hunter who saved the spring. They left with a renewed respect for the environment, spreading Alaric's message across oceans and continents. His single choice continued to heal the wider world. In the spiritual realm, Alaric and Mawu ran across the cosmic savanna, chasing the light of falling stars across the night sky. They were the architects of the wild dreams that inspired young children to love the earth and its creatures. Whenever a person dreamed of a golden leopard, it was Alaric's way of checking on the hearts of men. Their duty had become eternal and boundless. One evening, a young boy from Alaric's lineage fell into a deep sleep while resting beneath the shadow of the great Baobab tree. In his dream, he met a majestic hunter with silver hair holding a staff that glowed with a soft blue light. The older man smiled and passed a beautifully carved wooden pendant shaped like a leopard's paw to the child. The boy woke up feeling a sudden surge of courage. The boy looked down and found a real wooden pendant resting in the grass right beside his hand, exactly like the dream. He tied it around his neck, knowing that he had been chosen to be the next active guardian of the valley's secrets. He stood up tall, looking toward the forest with a sense of clarity that belonged to an experienced tracker. The cycle of the hunter had officially renewed itself. Alaric watched from the spiritual canopy, satisfied that the flame of responsibility would never die out in his home valley. He knew that as long as one person remembered the code of balance, the darkness could never truly return. He turned back to Mawu, and together they leaped deeper into the infinite golden fields of the afterlife. Their legacy was secure, etched into the very soil of Africa. The stars above the savanna aligned into the shape of a hunter and a leaping leopard, a constellation that guided travelers at night. The elders called it the path of the balance, using it to navigate the wide plains during the darkest seasons of the year. It stood as a permanent reminder that true strength lies in cooperation, not conflict. The sky told their story every single night. The memory of Alaric's first arrow, the one he chose not to shoot, became the symbol of peace for the entire region. The people crafted replicas of unstrung bows to hang over their doorways as a sign of welcome to all living things. It showed that the ultimate power of a hunter was the wisdom to know when to preserve life. The village became a beacon of empathy. Image prompt 42. A vibrant 3D wide shot of a bustling watering hole filled with various African animals drinking together in total peace. The background features lush green vegetation and a clear sky, showing the total transformation of the ecosystem. The stories of Alaric were eventually carved into the rocks of the high mountain caves, ensuring they would survive any passing of time. The drawings depicted a man running alongside a great cat, their forms intertwined with lines of water and light. These ancient galleries became sacred places where people went to seek clarity during times of personal doubt. The stones truly held the history. Every year during the Harvest Festival, the village youth performed a dance that reenacted the trials of the River of Fire and the Whispering Stones. They wore cloaks of golden grass and moved with the agility of leopards and the strength of proud hunters. The celebration kept the history vibrant and immediate, ensuring that the lessons were never locked away in the past. The culture thrived. Image prompt 44. A festive 3D shot of village youth performing a traditional dance around a great fire, wearing stylized costumes that represent the hunter and the leopard. The movement is dynamic, joyful, and full of cultural energy under the night sky.